Welcome to our short solution-based podcast for busy people managers who are hungry to learn and grow. In our Leadership Rethink podcast today, it's presented by myself, Dave Allen from ALD Coaching, and from John Hardy from Peak Consultancy. Today, John, you're going to be talking about being renewed. I don't know what you're going to talk about. Let me just stop you. Let me have a look at that again.
Do you want to stop and
Yeah, you do.
what?
Oh, you can keep going if you like.
Okay,
Slowing down to be renewed. Slowing down to be renewed.
Yes.
Let's start again. Ready?
Yep.
Restart my thing too. Welcome to our short solution-based podcast for people. Welcome to our solution-based. Welcome to our short solution-based podcast for busy people managers who are hungry to learn and grow. Today's podcast, our Leadership Rethink podcast. I'm going to go soon. Welcome to our short solution-based podcast for busy people managers who are hungry to learn and grow. Today, our Leadership Rethink podcast is presented by myself, Dave Allen from ALD Coaching, and from John Hardy from Peak Consultancy. And today, John's going to be talking to us about the topic of slowing down to be renewed. So, John, what do you mean by that?
This is, I thought I'd be a little bit obtuse in the title to gain some interest because I work with leaders as you do, and they are busy people leaders and busy in their business. And I come across this all the time about how are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. That's a kind of a flat out statement that everybody makes. And yet this is about how people really function on a day-to-day basis with their energy and their engagement as leaders. Like we were chatting a little bit earlier, a lot of leaders run off adrenaline to actually keep themselves going. And adrenaline leads to stress, stress leads to poor health, and poor eating habits and poor health habits. And it gets them into a lot of trouble because of that. So if we do not slow down in our life, we actually are not creating healthy future and longevity for us. So what I'm hoping to answer today is help busy people leaders to not use that word as much and actually reframe how they live their lives holistically and not just think I've got to work 9 to 5 and I've got to be there before people arrive and I've got to stay after people leave to prove that I'm actually a busy people leader and I'm an effective leader and I'm working really hard. And I believe in hard work. The reason why we are still in business, David, is because we work hard. It doesn't mean it's hard work. And that's the dissonance that oftentimes sits in people's lives and in their thinking is this dissonance about working really hard to actually make sure everything works. So I'm looking to create for them a principle to slow down strategically. Now, in my world and in your world, one of the principles is the Sabbath, that day of rest that God created for us. And yet we don't do that very well at all. And so we have to actually create a conversation around how do we create the ability to slow down. So one of my guys did this, and he's got a park across from his house. So I said to him, take a journal, take a pen, don't take your phone, don't take anything electronic, and go and sit in your park and slow down and think. He did that. He came up with a 22-point vision strategy for his life. And I read it, and it was incredibly inspiring because he got away from being busy, working hard, and he does work hard. He's an incredibly clever guy. But he actually found a place where he received the insight that he needed that will energize him going forward. And one of my questions that I ask him every session is, have you reread your vision strategy for your life? Sometimes he said yes, sometimes he says no, and I give him a bit of a stir up because I want leaders and I want our busy people leaders to actually create new energy cycles in their life. So last week I was talking to an older guy, and he said, I work for about an hour and a half, and then I'm tired. So I said to him, do you understand what's actually happening? And he said, I'm not really sure. I said, that is your energy, and you're really good in that moment for that hour, hour and a half. Stop. That is your energy cycle. And this is what oftentimes we don't understand is the water cooler principle was when people went to the water cooler, they went there because so their energy cycle had stopped and they needed to go and do a break and do something entirely different to take a rest. And they think, even the smoker going downstairs outside and having a smoker, it's the whole same principle. It's not about having the smoke, it's about resetting and having that energy cycle. So when I go back, I actually can be effective. And so my first principle is a little bit of language here, um, rhythmic renewal. If you understand your energy and create that in your life and understand whether it's 45 minutes, whether it's an hour, whether it's an hour and 15, understand that energy cycle. Because when you break and come back to that, you will actually be enabled by your brain resetting and having the creativity that you're looking for and that you think, if I work for another hour, I will actually get it done. But you actually need that break of that energy cycle, and your renewal of your brain actually resets, and you're far more productive and far more engaged. And I find that fascinating when people do it. And I've had a number of people do it and they go, John, this has just changed the way I do my life. I've slowed down, I've been renewed, and I've taken that rest. The other thing is, it's not just during the day, it's actually during the week, during the month, during the quarter, during the year. So I often work with pastors and I say this to them. I said, how long do you take a holiday for? Or a weekend here, a week there? I say, no. I said, you need to book in at least 3 weeks for your own physical renewal. But then I say, when do you take time for yourself to be renewed so you're studying? And have you asked permission to actually build that into your world? What do you mean, John? I should go away and study. And taking time to actually do that purposeful pausing, which is my second principle, to take that time to reflect on the world in which you're living. Because if you don't take that time to reflect, you don't listen. So, we talk about leaders listening to others so they can actually lead them well, and like you've shared about coaching them well. But we also need to listen to ourselves. And if we don't take that time to reflection, so I have a number of my clients that do my action reflection tool. 4 questions that they sit down and they think about what we talked about in our session to help them get the most out of it for themselves. Because it asks them a question. So this is my purposeful pausing. So really being purposeful for yourself as a leader to understand the power it means to you reflect about your own world, your own leadership. And the judgment comes on us that we think we have to work flat out 9 to 5. We have to work flat out from 7 to 7. And we think if we don't do that, we are lazy. But the best way to not be lazy is to take time to reflect and think about how you really can ask very powerful questions of yourself so you can be not a busy people leader, but a better people leader that will actually impact those around and about you. And my third thought is this creates restorative relationships. So it restores your relationship with yourself, with your spouse, with your kids. And for me, I often ask that question to leaders, particularly men. When are you taking time to stop your day and start your family? And I've encouraged men on the way home from work to stop somewhere before they get home, debrief the day, and then rethink, I'm now moving to be the leader in my family, the husband to my wife, the father to my children, support to my wife, the encouragement to my children. And when we do this ability to slow down and think, it creates renewed energy. So he then walks in the day and his wife's stoked. I've got my man. His presence, we talk about the power of presence. He's present, he's aware, he's engaged. He loves sitting down, reading with the kids and playing with them and all that fun thing. And it creates renewed energy in us to actually enable us to be the leaders that we think we should be. And we've got to take away the judgment of what we think is being lazy, because when we slow down, we get renewed. When we slow down, we reflect well and ask ourselves great questions. When we slow down, we create new energy that we think by working harder and running off adrenaline creates the energy. It's better to work off serotonin than adrenaline, because serotonin is so much a more positive chemical working in our body and working in our brain. And here is something really important for leaders in this space when we're doing this. It's the power of saying no. And you've got to say no to a number of people. There's some things you've got to say to yourself, no. Sometimes you've got to say to your boss, maybe your account, you've got to say no. You've got to say sometimes no to those that demand from you unrealistic expectations. And because that creates disappointment. And the bigger the disappointment, the bigger the discouragement.
Yeah.
So saying no is really important. So you actually do a really good job. And what I would do today is, if you can pick one of those areas, renewing yourself, pausing, or restorative relationships, creating that energy and saying no, I think if you do one of those today and put that into practice for this next week, this next month, you will find the ability to slow down will actually help you be so much more effective.
Thanks, John. It's been great to hear your insights, and it's such an important topic because
Yes.
people wear it as a badge of honor. I'm busy.
Yes, they
And
do.
so
They
by
do.
by going into the benefits, it's fantastic. So if you've enjoyed this podcast and it's been helpful for you as a people manager, please connect with us and keep your ear out for further episodes coming. Cheers.
Cheers, David. Great working with you.